Oh no. So it was going to be like I was waiting for that to be explained more, and it never did, and then it kind of just got forgotten about. But then again, so much of this. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, come here. Like this is a very predictable twist.
Oh yeah.
You know. Of course, like you can imagine our like Kellen's fury here because like yeah, he thought his wife was dead for 12 years. It's a bit of a big deal.
You abandoned the boy. I mean, so did I, but
I mean I'm just busy.
Worse when she does it somehow.
That's the worst thing about the Pokemon Rangers. No fucking paternity leave, honestly. So this is Cameron's theory on it, because again, he was also part of this project to make a nuclear Pokemon.
Yeah.
And would have been instrumental in how the Curie stuff works. So yeah, it is a case of like you were training a Pokemon like through basically mind control.
Okay.
That's possible.
All right. Kellen is right there. So I'm talking about him in the third person.
Yes. There's a bit of creative license being employed here for the finale.
Oh yeah. Push her into the volcano?
Probably not, no. What's this? Hey, look, it's Baby Rain. It's tiny.
So, can you level it up and... What?
Look, it's talking.
Like that Garlic.
Well, as we all know, all nuclear Pokemon can speak. I mean, it's this basic stuff like...
I still think you should have had nuclear Pokemon on the team.
I'm not taking that risk. Just fucking no.
Ah, okay.
Uh-huh, okay. Right, so basically because Acton was a legendary and gave it a rare metal, it now has an infinite power source.
Yeah. Again, throw it into the volcano.
To be fair, I mean, it would stop this happening again, just throwing it out there, lads, yeah?
Yep.
Or better yet, like, why didn't the scientists just go to the mountain anyway? They all knew that, like, this legendary lived here. They just had to wake it up. And they just go, like, here, give this to the nuclear Pokemon and no one dies. So again, this is Urain telling its story, as you can see. And obviously, our mother Lucille was the person using the interface all that time.
Curie, which would become her name.
Yeah, funny how that works, isn't it? Very Mewtwo-like story here. When you think about it, except like this, like suppose like what would have been the analog of Blaine or someone like that, ended up being the villain, which was a bit like interesting. Of course, you remember that the when we were in the Larkspur laboratory, the password was 092. So it was always, that was a reoccurring number throughout the game.
All in all, this has been a good game. It has had some solid plot.
Yeah.
Not the best timed and spaced out.
I agree with that. Like, it's one of those things where, like, I find this with a lot of the kind of the fan-made games, that they do have somewhat of a daft premise, but they often do kind of make it work in a way.
Yeah.
At least within its own rules.
With this, if it had gotten rid of that whole ninja shit from about halfway through the game.
Oh no, that was completely redundant.
There was plenty of it that was completely redundant.
Definitely.
The fact that there's sets of legendaries that have nothing to do with the plot. Good in one way, but just annoying in others. Like that whole stuff with the legendary bugs, like the queen bug.
That was a wasted opportunity for me.
Yeah. Good, nice in implementation. If it was a side quest that you might not even hit into by playing, like you'd have to go hunting for it.
Yeah.
Grand. There was just kind of throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks and keeping anything that didn't stick in it anyway.
Like I do get that kind of impression from a lot of the ROM hack games. We kind of got this with Prism as well. Where it was just like, let's see how with Brown and Prism, it was a case of like, let's see what we can do with this ROM. Let's see how far the red and crystal ROMs can go in terms of content. And to their credit, like they did some superb work with that. But it was always the same philosophy. It was like, what can we do with this tech? Let's push the boat. Let's try these things. And with Uranium, it was kind of this case of like, can we make up a full dex of custom Pokemon and try and make them work? And with other games I'm playing at the moment, like Insurgents, it's the case of, can we have a really fucked up dark shit plot that's made for competitive players? And again, at the time I'm playing it, it's working. But like it has its flaws.
Big fan of fucked up plots, but I'd also like them to be concise enough that if I set it down for 2 weeks and come back to it, I'm not forgetting a lot. Yeah,
exactly. Like this one in a way like does what like traditional Pokemon games do, and makes you forget about the villainous plot, so you continue on with the championship stuff.
Yeah.
And at least as they did with kind of Black and White, everything collides at the same time right at the end.
I like that though at the same time. Like that's a nice approach in some ways. Worked in Black and White, didn't work in Sword and Shield. Fairly grand with it, how it worked here. I mean, it saved us from having the Battle Dio again, which I'll always be happy about. Or do we still have to Battle Dio after this?
Well, let's find out now once Uranium has finished telling its story. There's a cameraman just there going, I'm getting this, fuck. There's a fucking talking Pokemon here.
Yeah. Think about how much that Meowth was worth. This will have to be worth at least twice that.
Just there, just Giovanni's in the corner just going, mine now.
I kind of wish that... No, you didn't get the Ultra games, did you? Whenever they came out.
I did get the Ultra games, yeah.
So, you know, there's the Rainbow Rocket sequence that was done. I wish that became a recurring thing, that came into Gen 8.
Yeah, would have been great.
And also, I think Looker should have been in Sword and Shield.
That should have been a thing as well.
Both of those, I think, were missed chances.
Considering that Looker was always supposed to be a piss take of David Tennant, it seems like a very weird not to have him in.
Yep.
Or even not even David Tennant, just Doctor Who generally, really.
Yep.
Yeah, strange one.
Although the Rainbow Rocket could be like, you could see they're doing weird shit. Oh, okay.
Yep, tier forfeits. We are champion by default. Because we saved the world.
Hey.
I love the senior gold corners here. It's like, what? You're just an old man. What?
And you're just a child.
Right. Yes. A child that saved the world from nuclear annihilation twice. So there you have it. We are now champions because we saved the world.
Fantastic. Now, does that mean that Arcan counts as one of our final team?
No, that's the thing. So unfortunately, Terabit doesn't get the love it deserves. Hard luck, mate. But yeah, it was there. There's a bad. Yes. And yeah, it has the kind of the Gen 5 outro, really.
Yeah.
So what happens next is the question. I presume you get credits. There you go. There's your credits. Some fan art.
Yay!
Yeah. Woo. So yeah, James, that's Pokemon Uranium done. Now, there is a very meaty post game that unfortunately we're not going to be doing as part of this playthrough. So we invite you to play along yourself and see what you think. Okay. But yeah, what did you think of this overall then? Because we were just talking about our thoughts initially on this.
Yeah.
Did it work for you?
As I said, bits of it worked, bits of it didn't. I liked the things they did with the gym leaders. Big plus. Going for themed gyms instead of set type gyms. Big plus with me. The map was fairly cool, easy to get around, fun to get around. The amount of side quests though wrecked my head. The artwork on the Pokemon did not mesh well. Like, it seemed like there was 5 or 6 different artists at the same time.
Yeah.
And it didn't make them consistent at all, and they weren't balanced at all either.
No.
Just look at Power Boom.
Yep, definitely.
The Victory Road was good. Decent challenge. It scaled up the challenge as it went, as it should. Big pluses on that. There was. I'd say you could cut maybe 20% of the plot that happened in that, and it would be a neater game. Like, basically get rid of most of East Tandor.
Yeah, look, I think this game, like, again, we've been playing this now for the basically the bulk of the year in lockdown, and it's one of those games where, like, this game very much needs it to be simplified. Like, it needs to kind of go to basic, keep the basics and do that. Whereas, as is often the case with like doing fan-made games, your natural desire is to try and pack it with as much content as you can. Like we were saying there. And in this case, this is a game that like doesn't cater to that in terms of the story and so forth. You're better off with a less is more approach to it, especially if you're doing something plot heavy.
This nearly just to really date when exactly we're doing this. The Snyder Cut just came out 2 days ago, which was the 4-hour remake of the Justice League. Yeah, this feels like that. It feels like it's a 4-hour film that could have been 2 hours.
Good point. Yeah, I would agree with that, because as we said, like, there was a lot of subplots, there was a lot of side stuff that just didn't actually matter, and it was either just like a reference to something or like, oh shit, we have to throw this in because it's a Pokemon game. Like the Ninjas and Pirates gimmick was just because there was no evil teams, really. Yeah. And like I said, that was just thrown in as a like literally like from like the sixth gym onwards, as a case of like, oh shit, we need to put this in. Yeah. When, let's face it, that was completely needless. Now, granted, if it was a case of where like you had like 2 pseudo legendaries that were like used by these 2 teams, that is a good point. That's a good way of doing it. But have it just for that one reason. Don't have it as like, oh, they're feuding and you've just entered their waters. That
like, there could have just been, here's the nuclear villain team, and that would have solved so much. That Curie is known, or like it's a team that you don't realize, it's a group that you don't realize are a villainous team that use nuclear types.
But even then, like literally in every cutscene talking about, you literally had evil scientists. You had the Larkspur guy, and you had all this stuff, and you didn't use them instead, when they would have been more coherent to the plot than ninjas. You know, it was pointless, really. And again, like those are the sort of stuff you probably would learn like doing a ROM hack game yourself, because you're pre-positioned to thinking like, let's throw this in, let's put stuff in a Pokemon game and see what works. So they've done pirates, ninjas, and nuclear there in that game. But they've also done, that's not even counting the actual like individual Pokemon that they put in themselves.
Yeah.
Like I mirror what you said about like the custom Pokemon they put in. Half of them are brilliant. Like half of them, I love the idea of them, of the premise of them. And half of them I absolutely despise. I think they were awful. So it was like as mixed a bag as you can get it. Particularly considering that like half of them, a good chunk of them are just analogs of something else. Whereas if like for like what was a good example of this? The Hog from Terrifying was literally just the Zubat Golbat, right? That was very, very evident. But when they did something original like Pajay, it really worked. Because
it was really liked Pajay, really liked Baschaff in the end.
Yes. Big winner.
Yep. There were some of them that worked really well, some of them that just didn't, and they could have been left out entirely. Again, look at your S51 that we had back at the early stage. And again, that section of the game is something that could just have been left out. That whole avoiding the spaceships was such a side part to it that ate up time. Like that ate up a good half an hour to an hour in just getting through those fields.
Yeah,
for something that's not much better than a Dugtrio.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it was that kind of thing where, like I admired the fact that he did try to have so many original Pokemon and try not to rely on what's there already. I admire the fact he did that. Now, the one thing I would say to that is that, again, the approach should be less is more. Focus on the ones that you have doing. Like, what this game really needed, in a sense, was not to have like what was it, essentially like maybe 200 new Pokemon in the game, which is ludicrous. You're never going to find a use for them. But slim that down to the best sets. Like literally do what like Gen 2 did, or perhaps maybe not to the same extent, maybe like Gen 4, let's say, where you had your custom evolutions, like your Dunsparces, your Corsolas. Nice ideas in particular, because you're giving them a bit of love. But you're also doing something like, well, here's like indigenous Pokemon to this that could mix well with already established Pokemon. So let's say, as is often the case when you have these new games, you want to try and breathe new life into a certain Pokemon, give it a good partner. Like, what would Pajay have matched quite well with? What would have Double Rug or Baschaff work? The Baschaff and Ampharos together would have been a very interesting duo, because they're both in the same apparent line. So that would have been something to work with.
Hell, I would have given them abilities that complemented each other.
Definitely. Yeah, exactly. That's where it just needed that little joint up thinking. But of course, like that's like subject to programming and stuff like that. So I can see why they didn't do that. But from a design aspect, that's the way I would have done it, because I would not have been brave enough to put in 200 new Pokemon. I would have whittled it down to 100 at best and see which ones work, and do what they're doing now with the modern games, like focus entirely on them, like make them unique, make them stand out. You know. And like I said, certain Pokemon did, like Baschaff, like Pajay, and a few others that we didn't use in the end. You know, at least even actually the birds were brilliant. Splendophel and Eshelton, great ideas. They're fucking great looking Pokemon. And even I throw in some of the beach Pokemon. They don't look a bit daft from the art, but the concept of them is very, very good. And as one or two others, like you could just kind of throw in as like very, very redundant Pokemon, like some of the kind of
I liked there being nuclear variants.
Yeah.
Like while we were saying, like, there are 200 new ones introduced. There was also 25 to 30 nuclear forms.
Yeah.
And they were just good in general. Some of them a bit better than others. Like what was there? It was nuclear Magikarp. I don't think it would have ever.
Yeah, it was. We had nuclear Gyarados, shit like that. Yeah.
So.
Also, another thing that this game really did, and it's probably we mentioned it a lot of times during the playthrough, but it was just their need to try and do dual types of everything. Like that was the kind of the main issue, was just like they felt like they had to give every possible permutation a shot. Yeah. So like the water type was particularly annoying, because Like, okay, granted, I know your area is very like coastal and stuff like that, so you feel the need to have a lot of water types, but you literally did have like a water type jeweled up with everything. Like you had a water fire type, you had grass, you had electric, you had all this stuff. And just like it was at the end of the end, just like a box ticking exercise, and they completely missighted of the whole balancing aspect of it. You know, where
like how many single type things were there in this game?
Very little, and if they are, they're probably pre-evolutions. Like the final evos, most of them were dual types, and completely needlessly, you know. Because even like there was one Pokemon in particular. What was it? They actually, to be fair, there was a few of them that like just didn't need the dual typing at all. They were better being more basic than that, and like played better basically. Actually, great example was our starter was Metal Links. Would have been a lot better if it was pure grass, because you wouldn't have had the quad weakness to fire, you know. Stuff like that would have been the case.
I have come around to it being a ballsy choice to give him a 2-stage evolution with a Mega. Like it was risky, but it worked in the end. Terrible abilities.
Yes. Yeah. Some of them are good. Some of them I like it in the idea, in theory, but some of them just do not objectively work, and that's a shame. Yeah. But again, that's kind of what you do, especially with RPG Maker, where you can write your own abilities, you can program them. They're worth having in the shout, and some of them are good, some of them are bad, and some of them were just fucking broken, as we found out. But yeah, like that's Pokemon Uranium. Again, much like fan games, as you will take the rough with the smooth, and I think this is a good 50-50 mix of both. Like there's some smooth parts, there's some rough parts, but it's very representative of a fan-made game. Like this is on par with what you'd expect.
All in all, I'd give this 5.5 to 6. I'd say.
I'll go a bit higher. I'll go 6.5. Because I'm kind of seeing like I reckon out of the fan-made games I played, I don't think anything's topping Pokemon Prism from a technical aspect of it. Yeah. Like I like to put in that much content on a Crystal ROM is just outright impressive. So that's your gold standard. That's what you have to aim at. I think there's a few fan games that do come close, but that to me is like where you're aiming for in terms of content. Because again, like that's padded. That is like done a lot of content, you know what I mean? But it never feels dragged out. You know, and that's because they've just nerfed the story. It's just gameplay and gimmicks and stuff like that. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with that, because you're basically proving, yes, you can do this in a Crystal ROM. Giggity, go for it. But even then, like it's a case of, like, at least they know where to stand and not trying to do a jack of all trades like setup like we have here. But yeah, like I go for 6.5. I think it's dead on what you'd expect of a fan-made game, and we should applaud that for that, because like, it was a monumental effort, as is always the case, and not just like making the game, but also dodging Nintendo's lawyers in the process.
Just as we've been talking, I have found somebody has managed to get Uranium running on their Switch.
Oh, nice. Well, that would have made capturing a lot easier on my side, but
I don't know how they went about it, but would you want to risk breaking your Switch for that?
Absolutely not. I am not taking that fucking risk. You know what those nuclear Pokemon at play. I mean, we already have hacked Pokemon. You don't want to have fucking custom ones just flying about everywhere. Just a fucking PNG of Pajay in the wild area going, T-posing along the fucking plains. I don't think so. But yeah, that's our playthrough of Uranium done, lads. Again, we will probably have more Pokemon content on the channel. I'm not sure what just yet. So we'll invite you to stay tuned in that regard. If you have enjoyed our Pokemon stuff, we have done other series before, like Poke Madness. We have our Brown and Prism playthroughs if you want to see more fan games. And if you want to listen to our podcast, Jellyfilled Donut, that's available on Spotify as well. So there's plenty to keep you going for the time being. So for myself and Nordy, it's been a pleasure playing this for your entertainment, I hope. And as we'll see you for the next one, whenever that may be.
Whenever. Anyway, we'll talk to you next time, lads.
Indeed. See you all.
Bye.